This is the Sick'em Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sick'em Podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics. Now, here are your hosts, Brooke Bednarz and the voice of the Bears, John Morris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Sick'em Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. We're glad you're with us again this week. John Morris alongside Brooke Bednarz, and we're pleased to have with us today Baylor's Senior Associate AD for Internal Affairs, Paul Bradshaw. Paul, we've been waiting for you so long, and now you're here, and we're glad you're giving us some time for our Sick'em Podcast.
Thanks, John. This is a podcast 24 years in the making.
Absolutely, exactly. This is the perfect time to have you on.
We saved it for the 25th anniversary of Paul Bradshaw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. So, Paul, we appreciate it. Thanks very much. On that subject, you have been here 25 years?
Yeah, I came.
November of 96.
Yeah, I came the first year of the Big 12. So
okay.
It's kind of like the Big 12 and I have
there you go.
Together at Baylor.
Paul and the Big 12 came in together. Paul, Brooke, is the sixth longest tenured employee here in Baylor Athletics.
Wow.
How about that?
Now you're giving me news.
There you go.
That's our job, stats.
Okay.
We got all the facts.
Let me see if I can guess the other five.
Okay, I don't know if I know them all offhand, but I know most.
Hoot's been here longer.
Hoot is number 4.
Okay. Margaret.
Margaret is number 2. This is Margaret Smith.
Yes. Nancy and I go back because she was here, but then she left, so she's like not continuous. So I don't know where you place Nancy
on the list. And I got this from Adley. Okay. She's number 5, so she's one ahead of you. She wasn't continuous because she left.
So we'll tie you both at 5.
Asterisk. There's an asterisk.
There's an asterisk there. Okay,
Nancy.
Very good.
Oh man.
Do you know who number 1 is?
It's probably obvious, and I'm not even Martha Moore.
No, not Martha. This is in just athletics. So Martha would have been campus and athletics, right?
Yeah. Who was here before I was?
As riveting as this is,
yes,
we're going to move on.
Thank you. All right.
Paula Young is number 1.
Yeah,
Paula is number 1. Margaret is number 2.
Okay.
So there you go.
Confetti shoots.
Yeah, there you go. All right, good deal. And somebody else in this office is number 3, believe it or not. So, yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
He was staring right at you, and you didn't guess it.
Moving on.
It'll be a while before I'm on that list.
Brooke, there's the trees and forests. Have you ever heard that analogy?
Moving on. It's safe to say you've seen a lot in Baylor Athletics in your time here, and a lot of good things, and a lot of things, and a lot of changes. I mean, that's safe to say. A lot of changes in your time here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just University Park's corridor is a huge change, since I've been here and stuff. So staff size is, we just continue to grow and grow. So those two things have probably been some of the biggest changes that I've seen, really.
The one thing I love most about this podcast is just all the different things that I learn from all the different people that I have time to, sit down. That's the beauty of a podcast. We have a while to chat and hear about your story and how you got to Baylor. But, sitting in the room with 2 of the top 6 in the time worked at Baylor, I cannot wait to hear some of these stories that we're going to dive into. But I do want to hear a little bit before we talk about your time at Baylor. You have kind of an interesting background. You were an attorney before you ever decided to work into athletics. I want to hear all about that.
Well, technically, I'm still an attorney.
Well, true.
I just don't practice.
True.
But yes, so I'd practiced law. I graduated from undergrad at Baylor, went to law school at Baylor, and went out and was practicing law. And I did that for about 3 years. And I did it long enough to know that I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I mean, the money was great and there was a lot of things, but I just didn't enjoy what I was doing. And so I did a lot of soul searching and trying to figure out what is it that I'm passionate about? What do I really enjoy and care about? And it was college athletics. So I went back to get a master's degree, and I don't even tell people this. It's you two and whoever might.
It's a podcast exclusive.
There you go.
I have a master's degree from the University of Texas.
Oh, there you go.
It's still in the tube underneath my bed, I think.
That's not on your wall.
It's not on my wall. It's still in the tube. So I went back and got a master's degree in higher education, sport administration at the University of Texas. But the real kickoff out of that was I was required to do an internship. So I just sent a bunch of letters, made a bunch of phone calls, and it was what was then called Southwest Texas State University, which everybody now knows as Texas State University. They had been a Division II power and had just moved up to Division I. And so with all of the NCAA compliance aspects of being Division I, here was this guy who was an attorney and was working on, his master's at Texas, saying, "Hey, I'd like to come and work for you, as an intern." Man, they just
they're like, "Okay, come on."
So they jumped on it and stuff, and that was really kind of my launching pad for college athletics. At that, that was the first spot.
So what was your role as that intern? Like, what type of intern were you?
So I was over, there was a full-time administrator, but basically she had given me the manual, and then so I was the one kind of developing all the policies and procedures and the documentation. So, back in those days, not everybody had a computer, so there was a lot more paperwork than what we do or what they do, They didn't have as many online systems and stuff like that. So I was the one doing all of developing the forms, sending out the forms, collecting the forms, reviewing the forms for all of the monitoring that has to take place and stuff. So, yeah.
That was a major decision, major life change when you go from practicing law to going back to school. That had to have been a decision you and Kelly really thought about a lot, prayed a lot about, and moved on from there.
Well, the good news for Kelly is she wasn't a part of it. We weren't married at that time stuff. So, but yes, it was it was in some ways it was a hard decision, but in other ways it really wasn't, because somebody had said, find something you love to do and you never work a day in your life, right? And I think that's the story for me and stuff. And I just knew that from a career standpoint, I wanted to work in college athletics and was willing to, do whatever. So, I left. When I left practicing law, I had a legal assistant, a legal secretary is what we called them at the time. I know the terms have probably changed since then. And I left that and became an intern and stuff, But I loved it. And now it was not easy, financially there because it took me. Well, after my first year at Texas State, they were like, "Hey, we're going to give you as big a raise as we possibly can," which was not a whole lot, but they did because they really wanted to keep me there as long as they could. So I did a second year with them. I was only originally going to do 1 year, and so it kept me a second year. And then from there, it's just kind of a small world. So the Texas State was part of the Southland Conference at the time. And other members are Stephen F. Austin, UT Arlington was in the league, UT San Antonio, Northwestern State, McNeese over in Louisiana, Nichols, some of those schools as well. So the conference office assistant commissioner for the Southland Conference, who was over compliance, was a young man who was my age but really kind of became a compliance mentor for me. And that person is Greg Sankey, who is now the commissioner of the SEC.
Nice.
So Britton Banowski took over as commissioner of the Southland Conference. He elevated Greg up and got him more involved in championships and other aspects. So they needed a compliance administrator in the conference office. And because of my relationship with Greg, working with him on an almost daily basis, he recommended me to Britton. Britton hired me. And that was really my first, quote, full-time job, benefits earning position was working at the Southland Conference as assistant commissioner, and then I got promoted up to associate commissioner. So,
how about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good story. And from there, how long were you there with the Southland Conference office?
3 years.
Okay.
3 years. So.
And then what precipitated the change from there?
So So it is just a small world. So, Britton Banowski had been associate commissioner of the Southwest Conference with Steve Hatchell.
Right.
And then he left there.
Right.
And came to the Southland. Then the Big 12 formed a year really before they started competing. So in 95, Steve Hatchell was named commissioner. And so he brought Britton back from the Southland to be associate commissioner of the Big 12. So the year before we even started, or the Big 12 started competing and stuff, Hatchell and Banowski were working on things like bylaws, all the legal stuff, all of that kind of stuff and everything. And so that's when I got promoted up to associate commissioner. Greg Sankey got promoted to commissioner of the Southland Conference. So once the conference got it going, Baylor had some turnover. You were familiar with my predecessor, I guess, and stuff. And they had Tom Stanton, I guess, was pretty new in the job, and they had reached out to Britton and like, hey, we're making a change in our compliance area. We're looking for a person, and Britton Banowski said, I've got the perfect person for y'all. He's a Baylor guy, and you guys will love him. So he recommended me, and they made me an offer, and I came back to Baylor.
There you go.
Yeah.
When you originally made the decision to go back into athletics and to, dive into that world, did you ever see yourself working back here at Baylor?
No, I did not. Honestly, I did not. When I left Waco, when I graduated law school and I left Waco, I never thought I would live here and stuff. God has.
And here we are.
God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting. So it wasn't a goal, wasn't even a thought really for you.
No, I mean, if you had said, hey, name your top 10 places you'd like to work, Baylor would have been in there, but I can't say, I was just dying to come back to Baylor or whatever else. We had such a good time, at the Southland Conference. So Greg is my age. Greg Sankey's my age. Britton is 1 year older than the two of us are. So you imagine three of us, and then we brought in another young gentleman about the same age named Greg Fort, who was handling our communication. So you had 4 30-year-olds, 32, maybe 33-year-olds running a conference and stuff. It was honestly, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really, really was.
That's
and
great.
Stuff. And it wasn't the, prestigious league or whatever else and stuff. But man, we worked hard, and I think we did a great job for our league and stuff. So
that's good. That's some good history of the Southland Conference.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty cool.
They always have they still always have a warm place in my heart and stuff like that. Good people. There's a lot of good people in that league and stuff. So.
When it comes to value and great customer service, you can count on us. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. As a Customer First Award of Excellence winner, our customers always receive exceptional service, and during the Big Finish event, you save thousands on every car, truck, and SUV. Plus, most vehicles feature 0% financing. The Big Finish event. Now at your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels.
Whether on the field or cheering from home, Du Bois Furniture is proud to support the Baylor Bears. If your bear cave needs updating, Du Bois Furniture is here to help. With over 59 years of our family serving yours, let our experienced sales team help you find exactly what you want. We specialize in custom upholstery, stunning dining rooms, elegant bedrooms, gorgeous leather, and top quality mattresses. Come see us in Waco and Temple, or visit us online at DuBoisFurniture.com. Du Bois Furniture, where beautiful homes happen.
Now, back to the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat.
Well, compliance.
Yeah.
So obviously that's rules and regulations and bylaws and all of the everything. Your background in law had to help with that. Did you ever, when you said, okay, I'm going back to work in athletics, and then you got that internship, was compliance, was that the thought, or is that just something that kind of came to be because of your background?
It really was because of my background. It wasn't a desire, to be honest with you, but I'm not stupid. So I figured, hey, that's a natural shoe-in for me and stuff like that. So I really kind of used that to kind of get my way going in college athletics and stuff like that. And at that time, compliance was, I don't want to say it was new, but I was certainly riding the crest of the wave, right? I mean, universities were starting to, fund full-time because, prior to me, well, there was one full-time person prior to me coming to Baylor, but before that we had our track coach.
Coach Hart.
Coach Hart was,
that's right.
Coach Hart was the compliance person, and that wasn't uncommon at a lot of schools, right? They weren't committing the resources to having a full-time compliance person. So when I kind of started making that transition, I kind of rode the wave. There was a whole group of us, quote, compliance type people who kind of came in nationally together and stuff like that. So, but was that my goal when I set out? No, but I knew that would probably have to be the area where I kind of, got my foot in the door.
Wow. And if Chad Jackson's listening right now, he's laughing at us. I don't know. We're trying to imagine how compliance was just not that high a priority, was it, in athletic departments at that time?
Well, I don't want to say that, but there wasn't a priority enough, and there weren't, a whole lot of people out there saying, hey, I want to do this, full time, and then this is really all this is really what I want to do and stuff like that. So I don't want to say they weren't committed to it, but because certainly, hey, I think Coach Hart and Tom Hill, they did a lot of good things from a compliance standpoint, during the time they were doing it, but they were just having to do it as a part-time aspect, not a full-time aspect.
Wow.
Well, you're now the Senior Associate AD of Internal Affairs here at Baylor. Walk us through this journey here. You came in as a compliance person, like you said. You spent some time doing that. But how did you climb to where you are now?
Well, there were I won't tell all the stories. Some of them I won't tell.
Some you're saving for your book. We understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fine. We'll forgive you.
That's okay. I think, honestly, the biggest thing that happened that really kind of helped me transition out of compliance and really got me involved in a role as a sport administrator was, so when I came to Baylor, the department was kind of split into two senior AD, associate ADs. You had Jim Trigo, who was over all the men's sports, and you had Jeannie Nowlin, who was over all the women's sports. Well, Jeannie got sick, and she was out for, a good period of time. I'm not talking about 3 days. I'm talking about 3 years and stuff like that, going through her recovery and stuff. So during that period of time, our AD at the time, Tom Stanton, said, hey, I want you to kind of take over Jeannie's role in kind of overseeing our women's sports programs and stuff. And so I did that. And so it just so happened that during that period of time that I was doing that is the time that we hired Kim Mulkey. So I was involved in that search with Tom Stanton.
What a good hire.
Yeah. I will say that was Tom Stanton. Not that I didn't. Well, let me back up. As it relates to the Kim Mulkey story, right, that she was an obvious candidate, but because she had been offered, I think, Missouri before us and turned it down. She'd been offered A&M before us, and she turned it down. So everybody told Tom, you'll never get her. You'll never get her. You'll never get her. She's not coming to Baylor. You guys don't have any, you're never going to get her. You're never going to get her. Well, that was one thing probably I will say you didn't tell Tom Stanton because, that all you did was just throw the gauntlet down. So he went all out. But we had other great candidates, and I don't mind sharing. He would admit to it. Gary Blair was also a candidate. Now, Coach Blair was at Arkansas at the time. Right. And stuff. And we had two, both of those have won national championships. So, hey, we were doing something right. But Tom just really felt like he's like, man, there's so much upside with Kim Mulkey, and that was his call. That was his decision, and he really got that one right. So also going on during this period of time, that's when Paula Young stepped down. You mentioned our longest tenured employee. Right. So she had been our softball coach, and so she stepped down, and we were looking for a new softball coach. And so I was working with Tom on that hire. And I do want to tell this about this shows a lot about who Paula Young is as a person. So Tom had a meeting where I can see all this in my head. We were in his office. He had 4 chairs that were outside of his desk, and we were all sitting around like this coffee table. And he had asked Paula to come in and wanted to pick her brain and stuff like that. She walks in, and she has the FCA Victory magazine, I think it is what it was, in her hand. And she walks in, and everybody agrees. And she puts that magazine down on the table, and she said, "That's who you need to go hire." And it was an article about Glenn Moore at LSU and stuff like that. And so, candidly, Glenn wasn't on our radar at the time. And so we read the article. So in the article, so Glenn is out of state school. He was at LSU. And what they used to do is his players used to line up in the form of a cross, and then they would run out of the dugout. Now, this is at a state school.
At LSU.
Yeah.
At LSU, right? That they were doing this. And that's part of what that article was about. And so we read that, and we're like, oh, my gosh, this guy is a perfect fit for Baylor. And so we contacted him. He and I still talk about I flew down to Baton Rouge and met with him, and Mark Lumley was his assistant there, and Mark was completely on board. And we met at this place called TJ Ribs. I took him to dinner. Janice was in, Mark Lumley was in. Their third assistant, a young lady named Brandy Landry, we had to convince her. She'd never lived out of Louisiana and stuff. I don't know that she'd ever even lived really outside of that region down there by Baton Rouge. So we convinced her that Waco was the place to be. And so that's kind of how, so all of those things kind of happened during this interim time. And then when Jeannie came back, she really transitioned more into the Bear Foundation as a fundraising role. And Tom just kind of kept those sports underneath me and stuff. So, be it Paul, now this was Ian, but, Marci Jobson and Paul Jobson. I could tell that story. I can tell you exactly. I was on the NCAA Women's Soccer Committee, and I was over actually at College Station, serving as a site rep or something. And my phone rang, and it was Cheryl. Oh my goodness, I'm going to forget Cheryl's last name, but she is with USA Soccer. And she says, "Hey Paul, this is Cheryl. Is it Burnett? And she said, "Listen, you don't know me, but I've got the perfect soccer coach for you." And I'm like, "Oh, really? All right, great. Tell me about her," and stuff like that. And she started telling me all about Marci Jobson. And I'm like, okay. And I said, "Well, do you have her number? I'll reach out to her." And it's kind of like one thing after another, and boom. It was,
Wow.
And you got 2 soccer coaches out
We
of
got
it.
two for the price of one.
Exactly.
2 for the price of one.
Well, that's an impressive string of hires.
That
there.
is. And what does it say that they're all still
here?
here?
That's right.
With very successful programs.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
That's the key to Baylor, to be honest with you. I mean, people think Baylor is a stepping stone. If you look at our coaches, we're not a stepping stone place. We are a destination. I don't think nationally people really think of Baylor being a destination department. They look at it as a stepping stone. But if you look, when we get good coaches, we keep them. We take care of them. We do a good job. We take care of them. We put them in positions to win. And the other key, obviously, is going to be mission fit, right? I mean, I talked about Glenn, and you talk about Marci, and you just talk about mission fit on everything. And that's why, they enjoy it here and stuff. So
good.
Yeah.
Well, we have you to thank for these coaches being here.
You played a role.
I played a role.
I
certainly played a role. I mean, Kim will tell you, I drove. She and Randy were married at the time, and I was the one that drove them around town. Where I can tell you. I mean, we still talk. So we talk, because we're on the road so much together and stuff. So we're always talking about you remember when, all that kind of stuff. But I took him to. You remember Johnny Carino's on Valley Mills? Maybe before your time.
I was not there.
So we went to eat at Johnny Carino's and stuff. So
you wasted no expense.
What can I say?
What was your first meeting with Kim like?
Well, and this is important because this is now the sport admin that you are. You
No,
still are with women's
I've told
basketball.
her-
So I want to hear, I want to really dive into this women's basketball role.
Well, all right, I got to tell this because I've told her, and she just laughs at me, right? So I've got to tell this side of the story, and so Tom Stanton looks at me. We done all our interviews, and we're going to make an offer, and he says, "What do you think?" And there was a method to my madness. I don't want to bash people, but we'd gone through a situation where we had hired somebody that didn't have a whole lot of previous experience, and so I was thinking, having a previous experience as a head coach really does count, right? Mm-hmm. So he asked me, he said, "What do you think?" And I said, I would go with Gary. I said, he's been a head coach at Stephen F. Austin. He's been a head coach at Arkansas. There's no learning curve for him. And he said, "Man, that would be a really good decision." He said, "But I think you're wrong." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "No, don't get me wrong. Blair would be a fantastic coach for us." He said, "But I just really feel like there's much more upside with Kim." And I'm like, "Well, you're the boss, so let's do it," and stuff like that. And then, we went through the whole thing of then Leon stepping down over at La Tech, and then the president, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're on the edge of our seats.
They didn't want to lose her.
No, and
did that come close to happening?
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll tell you. Now, Tom Stanton was a really good recruiter, and so and Kim probably wouldn't want me to say this and stuff, but
it's just us.
Yeah, it's just right. The two people who are even going to listen to this podcast, my mom and then whoever y'all have. But
if you're listening, we would like you to tweet it. No, just kidding.
Tom ally. He got an ally. Randy was Tom's ally.
Okay.
Yeah, he convinced Randy that it was time. That Kim had done everything she needed that she could do at Louisiana Tech, and that there was a whole new world out there for her that she needed to experience. And I think Randy was kind of on board. And so when we're not around, we felt like Randy was kind of on board, in their private conversations, saying, I think we ought to look at this opportunity and stuff like that. So he did a good job of selling Randy as well, and then kind of felt like Randy would help us, sell Kim.
I can hear Tom saying that. I can see that pitch from him. We're visiting with Paul Bradshaw, Baylor Senior Associate AD for Internal Affairs. He is a sport administrator for women's basketball. This is our Sikkim podcast. We're going to take a break and be right back after this.
If you need a trailer, Flat Rock Trailers has got you covered. From light-duty single-axle utility trailers to the Big Tex tandem duals. We also carry a full line of enclosed cargo trailers. Need a motorcycle trailer? We've got them. Need a dump trailer? We've got the largest selection in the state. Oilfield trailers? We carry a full line of Big Tex trailers to handle all your needs. Trailer repairs? We repair all makes and models. We'll even rent you a trailer if you need to use one for a day. Flat Rock Trailers, your #1 source for all your trailer needs. Find us at flatrocktrailers.com.
T&G can, and here's why. To say my wife and I have a lot to clean is an understatement. So we go to T&G Chemical, where the pros know what cleaning solutions to use and give us detailed instructions on exactly how to use them. We never got that kind of advice from any other stores. And the prices at T&G are great. From general household cleaners to odor control solutions for our pets. We go to T&G Chemical and Supply. That's why.
T&G Chemical and Supply. That's why.
You're listening to the Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Here again are Brooke Bednarz and John Morris.
And glad you're with us on this week's Sikkim Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, download it, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And we appreciate you being with us as we head into the holiday season. John Morris and Brooke Bednarz, and we continue with Paul Bradshaw talking women's basketball and that process. Good stories there, Paul, about the identifying Kim Mulkey and getting her here as the head coach, and here she is 21 years later, still the head coach at Baylor, fastest coach to ever get to 600 wins, men's or women's, and the women just won their 1,000th game in school history, and given Baylor basketball history prior to Kim, that's an amazing accomplishment.
It is. You were here, John. You remember the excitement that very first year to even make the NCAA
Yeah,
tournament.
oh,
We
huge.
had never done that and stuff like that. So that was.
And who did we play?
We played Gary Blair
And
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
In the first round.
That's right.
At Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Full
That's right.
circle.
On the campus of
That's
Duke
right.
University. So yes, again, goes back to what I said. God does have a sense of humor.
Yes, he
and
does.
stuff, so.
That's great. But look where the program is now, and we're in the started to say the heart of basketball season. We're not really there, but started conference play already, 2-0 in conference play as we record this. And this has been, even just the start of this season has been really challenging, hasn't it, with all the COVID protocols? And
It
everything?
is. It's just, I think it's a mental drain as much as anything else, right? I mean, everybody's kind of under the same COVID mental drain and everything that the whole country's been going through. So, everybody kind of has that as the background and stuff. But then, as you're trying to prepare, I don't want to say you're always on edge, but with all the testing, you don't know, all of a sudden you think you're preparing. It's just like, when the tweets started coming out about the men's Texas game or whatever, it can happen just like that. And that's, it's not always easy to coach in that type of environment, and stuff like that. But I think Coach Mulkey understands, and she's making the most of it, and, playing well, West Virginia is not an easy trip. And it's really odd that we're playing games in conference games in December.
I was about to say, with this COVID schedule, everything's kind of
Right.
flipped around a little bit.
Right. So, that's kind of a different thing, because usually with Coach, if you guys have been around her at all, I mean, it's like non-conference season, conference tournament, NCAA. I mean, everything is its own, and it's in its own little box, and it's a season and how she attacks that and all that stuff. Now we've kind of plopped 2 conference games down in the middle of our non-conference season, so it's been a little bit different. But the plus side is we've got the West Virginia trip out of the way already. And stuff like
Yes,
that.
True.
and 2-0 in conference.
And 2-0 in conference.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Well, as sport administrator, you were we're going to go back to March, but you were with the team whenever they were about to, I believe y'all were on the runway, about to take off for the conference tournament. Yeah,
that's kind of right. I was actually in Kansas City.
Okay.
So, they had an administrative meeting for the women's tournament the night before, and then the women were going to fly in that next day and stuff. And so I went to the administrative meeting, and at that point in time, when I left that meeting, I think we had decided that there would be no fans, except each institution would be allowed to have 100 people come in by pass list, right? And so that was kind of coming out of that. I mean, because things were happening COVID-wise so fast, And so we were going to move forward with the tournament, but then we were only going to allow 100 fans, basically, and stuff. And really, it was going to be players' parents for the most part, through a pass list and stuff. So I left that meeting, and I walked down the block, and all of the senior staff from the department was in a restaurant. We were all sitting down there just kind of chatting and everything. And I will never forget, there was a TV on in the corner right behind us and stuff, and it was the NBA game, and that's when they announced that the NBA was shutting down,
Right.
and we all just kind of looked at each other, and I think everybody kind of knew where we're headed on this deal. So the next morning, Mac's in meetings, and they're discussing it, all the ADs and presidents, and they're discussing about the tournament and everything. And so I just had we all did. I'm not Kreskin or anything, but everybody just had a sense of where this is headed. And so I was on the phone with Kim, and I said, "Have y'all taken off yet?" And she said, "No, we're just taxiing right now." I'm like, "If you will," I said, "ask the pilot to hold. If he can hold for 30 minutes, I will probably have an answer for you. And I think my answer is going to be, you're not coming up here. And so sure enough, she said, okay. So she I went up and pounded on the door. They pounded on the door.
Very Coach Mulkey. I can see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. So I guess they had already taxied out, and they were at the end of the, they were about to rev them up and stuff like that to take off. And she talked to him, and he's like, and they were great. Our pilots and the folks at United Air who do our charter service, you're with them. They're fantastic, and they're super. They'll do anything that they can. And he's like, sure, we'll taxi back and wait. And sure enough, I was able to call her and just say, hey, don't come. It's not going to happen. So and they got off the airplane
and this is the defending national champion,
Lady
Bears, and starting into postseason, Big 12 tournament, and then very shortly after that, you find out you're not going to have a chance to defend that national championship. No NCAA tournament.
I know.
That's tough.
I hate that. I hate it. I hate it for Juicy. I hate it for Lauren Cox. Certainly, even Taya Cooper, who came in and was, she was a great addition, last year as a grad transfer and stuff like that. So I really hated it for those kids and stuff like that. And unfortunately, it's just, the way things worked out.
When it comes to value and great customer service, you can count on us. Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. As a Customer First Award of Excellence winner, our customers always receive exceptional service, and during the Big Finish event, you save thousands on every car, truck, and SUV. Plus, most vehicles feature 0% financing. The Big Finish event. Now at your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
This is the Sick'em Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com.
Well, and kind of describe, we've talked to a couple of people who are sport admins for other programs, but to hear it from you, what your role is as a sport admin, to kind of open up that window of that relationship between Coach Mulkey and yourself, and kind of what all that means to be a sport admin.
Really support, stay out of the way. Sometimes I have to be the bad guy. Sometimes I have to be the conscious and stuff like that. But really, it's and you guys know this. Trust is something that's really important to Kim, and it takes time. I mean, it takes time. I mean, we didn't start off. We've been together for a long time and stuff like that. So we've been through some battles. We've been through some wars. As she said, Paul, you've seen me at my best and you've seen me at my worst and stuff. And so, I mean, there's been a lot. The .2, the .2 against Tennessee, and I mean, there's been, I could just go through all of these various things that, we've been through and stuff like that. But it's just being there. People say, what do you actually do? And I'm like, well, I'm somebody for. So what happens is the team and all the coaches before the game, they're out on the court warming up, and so I stay in the locker room and I give Kim somebody to talk to, during that, so just kind of keep her mind, off things and stuff like that. And that's when we really have some interesting conversations, because we talk about family, we talk about kids, we talk about faith, we just talk about, whatever, and stuff. So
that's an important role. I mean, the sport administrator, here at Baylor, I don't know what it's like at other schools, but here it's an important role because you're a confidant for the coaches, you're a liaison for the coaches, to MAC or to the administration on campus. You're a lot of things, but like you said, trust is really important to have earned the trust like you have with her.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hope she trusts me. I think she does, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, guys, I'd like to tell you, like, it's all about me. I have no role. I really don't. I get to be an observer, right? And so that's fun for me and stuff like that. And I have a sense of, I understand because I'll go to practice and I pay attention. I just don't go in there and get on my iPhone and whatever else, and so I pay attention to, scouting reports and stuff like that, and, what we need to do to be successful that night and who we need to guard and how we need to guard them and stuff like that. And so I can kind of watch it all happen and stuff like that. And when you do that, then you get an appreciation for, your coach and stuff like that. And so we've got a good one. Yeah. Guys, I can tell you we've got a pretty good coach. I mean, because, hey, look, I've seen it all, some highest highs and lowest of lows and stuff. But the thing that's been consistent, certainly in Coach Mulkey's program, is we're going to play hard. I can't think. There might be a night that she felt like we didn't play hard, but, our girls play hard and stuff. We're always going to defend you, and we're always going to rebound. Now, sometimes our offense, it's clicking, and sometimes we struggle. Let's just be honest and stuff like that. But the defense and the rebounding are the calling cards for, Lady Bear basketball. Those are going to be consistent.
Around the team as much as you are, you get to know everybody, the student athletes, very well. Also travel with them for the most part, and they're at every game. Explain to people listening to us the miracle that's happened with Dee Dee Richards.
Yes.
Well, it's amazing, and it's just I think anytime there's healing involved in anybody, whatever, if it's illness, injury, or whatever else, I think your spirit and how you mentally and emotionally approach it, I think really does impact it, right? Mm-hmm. And stuff like that. So not that I would want this to happen to her, but if anybody is going to be positive and, approach it and stuff, Dee Dee would have been the first one and stuff. But, yeah, it's amazing from where she was with not having feeling, then to not having a walker, from having to have a walker, and then her ability to get on the Alter G, which for those who don't know, it's basically it's like a weightless
kind of like a
jogger.
Treadmill.
Yeah, it's a treadmill, but it's got pressure and stuff, so you can take all the weight off your joints and stuff like that. And just to see her work, and then to get to to where she is, it's I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to use the term miracle, but I mean it certainly has been. I don't know that any of us who saw that would have said, "Oh yeah, she'll be back for she'll be back for conference." With conference starting in December.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the initial concern was, can she walk? Can she walk again?
Yeah.
I mean, can she get up and walk across the room?
Yeah.
And now here she is playing again.
Yeah.
So.
And not just playing, sprinting, cutting, playing defense.
Yeah.
I mean, we celebrated last night was the first home game that Baylor fans have been able to not watch on TV but see Dee Dee back on the floor in person. We also recognized her as the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year that she won last year. Like you said, it's what kind of Baylor Lady Bear basketball hangs their hat on, and she is definitely the leader of that. But even when she was announced for that, brought the energy, danced out to Kim at the middle of the court. It just brings a smile to your face knowing that, and especially after seeing the video that the creative team put together of, that was the first time anyone had seen video from the accident and what happened and how she wasn't moving, to then this, special footage of her in the hospital with the walker struggling, and being able to actually see that instead of just reading a release about it or hearing about it. Truly, to see that video and then see her celebrating that victory last night with her award and then winning the game. I mean, that's just a true story that, you have to be proud to have witnessed and to have seen everything that she's been able to overcome and where she is now.
Well, I didn't have a role in it, but I tell you who we do need to give a shout out to is going to be Alex Olson and Jeremy Hefner, their trainer and their strength and conditioning coach, because those two guys are fantastic to work with and stuff. And I don't know if you guys saw some of the if y'all saw any of the videos, like when she was first starting to rehab and stuff like that. But I can't think of anybody better than the positivity and encouragement and challenge you the way those two guys do and stuff like that. So, hey, it has to start with Dee, right? I mean, you have to want to rehab. It's not fun. It's lonely. That's the worst part of this sport is injuries. But so it has to start with Dee, but then to have the resources like Alex and Jeremy there, walking along the side. Hey, hats off to those two guys. Yeah. They deserve a lot of credit. Certainly not me. I'm just there cheering everybody on.
Well, that's all part of the family, the women's basketball family here at Baylor. And we don't want to move on without talking about your family. We mentioned Kelly's name earlier. You've got a son, Luke, who just finished a fantastic senior season playing quarterback at Bosqueville. Congratulations to you and to him on that. And Emma, your daughter. That was fun to see Luke. What was that like for you to sit in the stands and watch that?
It was really fun. I mean, as parents, I have to say we were very blessed that Luke is a quarterback, right? Because when you go to the game, your son is always going to be, and there's good and bad with that, right? Because everything,
lots of pressure,
yeah,
but you get to watch him,
right, and stuff. So yes, I mean there is good and bad when your son's the quarterback. But it was just Kelly and I knew going in, this is it, and I don't want to overblow it, guys. It's just high school football. But for us, it was a lot of fun every Friday night. John, your son
I was about to say, we're in Texas. High school football is a big deal.
Play that.
Yeah, let's not.
I have been on farm to market roads. I've never been on. I've been to towns. I'd never been to Rio Vista, Texas. I've never been to Tolar, Texas. I've been on farm to market roads. I've never been on and stuff. And so it was a great. She and I, it was a great time for the two of us, right? And we knew this was it. It was coming to an end. But then for the team to play so well and extend the season as long as they did, it was just fun. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I'm proud of him, but I'm proud of the whole team and stuff because it was a team effort. This is they went as far as any Bosqueville team has ever gone.
Wow.
Right. And stuff. That's why we really wanted to win. You always want to win, but we were really hoping they could win the regional championship because that would have been the furthest any team from Bosqueville had ever gone and stuff. But, in the 4 years that he's been out there and he's been involved in football, I told people this is the best team, not necessarily the most talented team. This has been the most together group of guys that, I've seen out there. And he will tell you, this is the tightest group of guys. And we play for each other. We encourage each other. We don't get down on each other. There's not a lot of selfishness on the team and stuff like that. And it was fun to witness that and see all that kind of come together.
That's fun.
So my, follow-up question to this is he's a senior. Is he going to wear green and gold next year, or does he have a plan?
He's been admitted to the green and gold, so he's been admitted to Baylor. I don't know if he's going to go. Candidly, I'm putting all my son's business on the
Luke, we're sorry.
No, it's okay. He'll end up choosing. It'll unless something comes up that we're not even thinking about right now. He's deciding between Baylor and Dallas Baptist and stuff. So, and just I told him, listen, I'm not putting any pressure on certainly football and stuff like that. But as we kind of cross into 2021, I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to start making a decision here and stuff like that. But we support him either way. Those are two great schools,
they are.
And he couldn't make a bad choice from those two.
And you have to be kind of happy they're not too far.
Yeah. I'm good with whatever.
And Emma is doing well?
Emma as well. She's an athlete and cheerleader, and that's the thing about, Bosqueville's a two-way school, so you can still kind of do it all. So like she would, and hey, I want to shout out to her cheerleader coach out there because Emma's a JV. She's just a freshman, so she's a JV cheerleader. But they started bringing up the JV cheerleaders, and once we got to the playoffs, like they did, some of the JV players. So
That's neat.
So she got to cheer for her brother and stuff like that, and it just made it a much more kind of exciting time for all of us. But, she's an athlete. She plays volleyball. She plays she's playing basketball right now. She cheers, and I think she's going to run track again. And she's bugging me. She wants to learn to play tennis and stuff. Wow. So we'll see. That might be our summer project.
Multi-sport.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the awesome part about a school that size. You get to you can do a lot of different things.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing with us. Appreciate it. I think folks maybe get to know you a little bit more and get some good insight into your job, your role, and your background. So we really appreciate it.
We do, and I really appreciate all the stories you shared.
I still got more.
I've learned a lot.
Oh, we know there's more.
Yeah.
There's more.
We'll wait for the book.
Yeah, we'll wait till John hits the off button.
There you go. That's good. Paul Bradshaw, our guest. We appreciate him being with us, Senior Associate AD for Internal Affairs here at Baylor, and that just that title just scratches the surface of everything he does now in his 25th year here in Baylor Athletics. So thanks, Paul, for your time. For Brooke Bednarz, I'm John Morris. Thanks for being with us. Join us next week for a special Christmas edition of the Sikkim Podcast.
You've been listening to the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sikkim Podcast has been a production of Baylor Athletics.